Hello, my fellow peeps, and welcome to the Season 4 quarter finale of the Salute House show. So what we're going to salute on is Secret of NIMH, or NIMH. So let's see here. It's a 1982 American animated fantasy adventure film directed by Don Bluth in his directional debut based on Robert C. O'Brien's 1971 children's novel, Mrs. Brisby and the Rats of NIMH. This film features the voice of Elizabeth Hartman, Peter Strauss, Arthur Mallet, Dom DeLuise, John Carradine, Derek Jacobi, Hermine Baddeley, and Paul Chenier. So, what we have to say is that this movie, it sure is one of the best classics that y'all ever saw. So, in order to salute this shit, let's get on with it right now. Okay, the plot is this. Mrs. Brisby, a widowed field mouse, lives in a cinder block with her children on the Fitzgibbons farm. Brisby longs to move her family out of the field as plowing time approaches, but her son Timothy has fallen ill. Mrs. Brisby visits Mr. Aegis, a friend of her late husband Jonathan, whom is diagnoses the illness as pneumonia, provides Mrs. Brisby with medicine and warns her that Timothy must stay inside for at least 3 fucking weeks to avoid death. Well, holy shit! This is off to a horrible, heartbreaking start. I really hate it when this happens. Okay, on her way home, Mrs. Brisby befriends Jeremy, a clumsy but friendly crow, before they both narrowly escape from the Fitzgibbons cat, Dragon. Fitzgibbons cat named Dragon? Wow. How ferocious much? Okay, the next morning, Brisby discovers that Farmer Fitzgibbons has started plowing early, although her neighbor Auntie Shrew helps her disable his tractor. Brisby knows that she must devise another plan. Okay, Jeremy takes her to meet the Great Owl, who tells her to visit a colony of rats that live beneath a rose bush right on the fucking farm and ask for the services of Nicodemus, their wise and mystical leader. Okay, there's gotta be good parts there. Okay, Brisby enters the rose bush and encounters an aggressive guard rat named Brutus. Oh shit. Who chases her away? She is led back in by Aegis and is amazed to see the rat's use of electricity and other technology. Brisby meets Justin, the friendly captain of the guard. Jenner, a ruthless and power-hungry rat opposed to Nicodemus. And finally, Nicodemus himself. Well, goddamn. From Nicodemus, she learns that many years ago, the rats, along with her husband and Aegis, were part of a series of experiments at the National Institute of Mental Health. Oh shit, so this is the Secret of National Institute of Mental Health. Is that what it stands for? Okay, the experiments boosted their intelligence, enabling them to escape, as well as extending their lifespans and slowing their aging processes. However, they are unable to live as typical rats would, need human technology to survive, which they have accomplished only by stealing. The rats have eventually settled on a decision from them to leave the farm and live independently in an area they refer to as Thorn Valley. Nicodemus then gives Brisby a magical amulet that will activate when the wearer is courageous. Meanwhile, Jenner, who wishes the rats to remain in the rosebush, secretly plots with his reluctant accomplice, Sullivan, to eliminate Nicodemus. Because of the rat's relationship with Jonathan, they agreed to help her move her home. First, they need to drug Dragon so that it could be done safely. Only Brisby could do this, as the rats cannot fit through the hole leading into the house. Jonathan was killed by Dragon in the previous attempt. Ah, hell no! While Aegis broke his leg in another. Ah, fuck! That night, she puts the drug into Dragon's dish. But the Fitzgibbons' son, Billy, catches her, while trapped in the bird cage. she overhears a telephone conversation between former Fitzgibbons and the staff of NIMH and learns that the institute intends to exterminate the rats in the morning. Brisby then escapes from the cage and runs off to warn them. As the rainstorm approaches, the rats begin moving the Brisby home, with the children and Auntie Shrew inside. Using the rope police system. Disregarding Sullivan's protests, Jenner soon sabotages the assembly, causing it to fall apart and crush Nicodemus to death. Ah, fucking hell! Yeah, this sure is bullshit, right? Brisby soon arrives to warn the rats about NIMH's arrival, but Jenner attacks her and attempts to steal the amulet. Sullivan alerts Justin, who comes to Brisby's aid. Jenner mortally swoons Sullivan and engages Justin in a sword fight that ends with him being killed by the dying Sullivan. Fuck. The Brisby home begins to sink into a muddy ground it landed on, and Brisby and the rats are unable to raise it. All appears lost until Brisby's will to save her family gives power to the amulet, which he uses it to lift the house and move it to safety. The next morning, the rats, with Justin as their new leader, have departed for Thorn Valley as Timothy begins to recover, and Jeremy soon meets and falls in love with a female crow named Miss Wright, who is just as clumsy as he is. Okay, so what do I see? Okay, I can see that the animation is not too bad. It's just as... Well, no, don't get me wrong. It's the 1980s and the animations are acceptable at its time. Yeah, and so does the illustrations and shit. So the Secret of National Institute of Mental Health has given 93% of approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes based on 68 reviews, with an average rating of 7.50 out of 10. And the film also has a weighted average of score of 76 out of 100 on Metacritic based on 15 reviews. And critics Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert gave the movie 2 yes votes on the July 15th, 1982 episode of their television program Sneak Previews. This film has been nominated in the Best Fantasy Film and Best Family Feature, Animated, Musical, or Fantasy in both Saturn and Youth in Film Awards. And they won the Best Animated Film Award. Yeah, well, the fucking Saturn Award. So, anyway, peeps. I may not like... nah, whatever. Let's get on with people giving us their thoughts about it.
My goodness, The Secret of NIMH was a great movie I have ever seen ever since I was a little kid. I can't wait to see this again.
I remember watching these anthropomorphic characters going on an adventure. Great scenes alongside with the ones that you couldn't bear with when it comes to unfortunate deaths.
The Secret of National Institute of Mental Health is the great film Don Bluth has ever developed. The voice acting, the illustrations and animations have gone so exquisite to the touch.
One that I can't bear with the most is one of the poor mice is that Timothy was feeling ill. But thankfully he got fully recovered. Before that, the adventure that Mrs. Brisby used her amulet to lift the house and move it to safety. What a splendid movie.
So in conclusion, my fellow peeps, I recommend The Secret of NIMH. Yeah, this movie gives us the chills, gives us the cringeworthies of bad things. But it was really worth it, and it sure gives us the nostalgic value of how enjoyable the adventure was, although it was dangerous at that, in any circumstances. Don Bluth, this movie was the first film that you have developed and published, and you've got famous for it. Good job, man.